Hey, let's go.
Brand new torque converter. Alright guys, so it is a few days later now, and what we're actually going to go ahead and do is I just want to drain the oil out of the car, the engine oil, and see if we can see anything in the oil. And I also want to drop the oil pan just to inspect the crankshaft, because a lot of times when you hear sound like that, it could be rod knock. So I just want to make sure that that's not the case, or maybe is the case, just so we can see what's actually going on. So we are going to drop the oil pan and see, hopefully maybe if there's something there, or maybe not too sure. But we won't know until we take it apart, guys. So let's just go ahead and start dropping that stuff out of the car. And maybe there's a bad bearing in there or something.
What the heck?
Alright guys, so I just took out part of the scavenge pump, or like something that sucks the oil to the parts of the engine, and this thing has been sucking in metal. Look at this. So there's something broken in the engine right there.
It is a metal.
It's metal. Look at that. Look at that. What?
Dude.
Oil pan.
Oh god, and a bunch of metal in there.
Somebody put gasket maker on the gas. Someone put gasket maker on the gasket, guys. Here it is.
Oh man, the
got
gasket
it.
maker. Alright, let's look at this. Let's see what we got. Let's send it into a lab for analysis. Alright, cranking the engine, guys, manually with a ratchet wrench. Let me check something. Ah, there he is. There's our little guy. It's the rear ones.
I can hear it.
Oh, there he is. That's the one. The whole bearing fell out.
That sounds exact.
That's the one. That's the one. Look at it. Look at how much it's moving.
Wait, is it?
Look at how much he's moving.
Oh my god.
Take a picture.
Dude.
Oh my god. Oh, that's the one.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we found him. That's the one right by the transmission. Why do you have to be so close to the transmission? That's why we heard the sound right here. Can you shake the other ones?
That one doesn't even move at all. Those ones I did earlier, they're tight.
So it's only one of them.
Dude, it's just this one in the back.
Dude. That's weird. What the heck? Oh my god. Look at all that metal.
Guys, so the way it works is pretty much you have your crankshaft, and on the crankshaft, you have your connecting rods. And on the connecting rods at the top of them is your piston head. And the piston head is inside the engine block. And then under the piston head and the connecting rod, you have the final little like sleeve type of bracket that goes under it. And it like makes it a full circle. And in the middle of all that is the bearings. They're two half circles that connect. And there are two bearings basically. And that's what causes it to spin kind of nice and freely. So that is the problem right there. That bearing is like completely toasted, shredded, gone. And that's what all of these right here, what all of these metal chunks are. The camera's dirty. So basically it's the bearing that was in the middle of the connecting rod. And this is all the shavings from it. This used to be two half circles, and now it's just a bunch of metal dust. So that's why it's all knocking. There's just a bunch of gap in between the connecting rod and the crankshaft because this bearing has been completely shredded down. And there's a variety of ways this can happen. It's from like no lubrication, or just it worn out, or spinning too fast, stuff like that. But this is the only cylinder, which is the last cylinder, cylinder 8, which is the only one. All right, guys, so it is a few days later now. And in the last clip, we figured out what is going on with the Hellcat. And we found out that the sound that it was making was echoing through the engine into the bell housing area, which is why us and a couple of other people thought that it was the torque converter, but it wasn't the torque converter. After doing all that work, found out that the rod bearings in cylinder 8 are completely basically gone. So what we went ahead and did is we ordered all this stuff right here to go ahead and rebuild this engine, guys. So right here, this big part right here, this is a new gasket for the oil pan because it did have to come off. and we want to make sure that there's no oil seepage through that pan. So we ordered a new oil pan gasket right here. And right here is a torque wrench. Since we do have to go ahead and take apart parts of the engine and then put them back, you want to make sure that you put them on to spec, because if it's too loose, then parts can fall off, and if it's too tight, then things might not be able to move the way they should. And then right over here, we're going right here on these boxes right here. These are straight from Dodge, and these are the brand new rod bearings right here, guys. Take a look at that. Brand new rod bearings. So we're gonna go ahead, get these replaced. We ordered a bunch of rod bearings, so we're gonna go ahead and replace them all, guys, to make sure that this problem does not continue. And then right here, guys, we have oil right here. So this is OW40, 7 quarts of it. So the reason we have this here is because they recommend after you do a rebuild on an engine, this isn't technically a full rebuild, it's just a little part of it that we're rebuilding, but I'm still gonna go ahead and follow this part of the operation right here, and that's that you have to go ahead and put in some oil into it and drive the car on this oil for about 300 miles and then drain it out and then put new oil in it, and then you can change that after the recommended mileage amount. So this is just to make sure that everything gets cleaned out, and when we drain it after 300 miles, you know, stuff just breaks in properly. There's like a bunch of stuff to that and research to that, so that's why we're gonna do that. And then while I was under the car looking at the engine, I did discover that the passenger side control arm's bushing does have a little bit of movement and play inside of it, so we did order a new control arm, and surprisingly, out of all the parts here, this was the most expensive. So that's pretty crazy right there, but we're gonna go ahead and get that taken care of too.
That thing looks industrial.
Yeah, it's industrial. This thing's heavy. We're gonna go ahead and get that taken care of. All right, guys, so those are all the new parts right there, and right here in this box, my brother went ahead and cleaned out the oil pan and the filter that sucks the oil into parts of the engine. He went ahead and cleaned all the metal out of these things. These things look pretty much brand new now, so we can go ahead and install these things back into the engine as well, guys. So after we are done installing all these things, hopefully when we start the car, there's no more funny sounds, and we're able to rip this thing around for 300 miles until we have to change the oil. So guys, let's just go ahead and get to work and get this parts of the engine replaced.
Okay, so that bottom half should just fall out. So
Yeah.
it actually there should be a rod bearing in there
Of sorts.
of sort.
There it is. Oh. Is that the rod bearing?
There's no bearing. Dude, that's pretty smooth though. That's really good.
Where did the whole bearing is just gone?
Yeah, it's disintegrated. It's in the oil pan. Oh, dude, it has some of the bearing on there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, they're both like on top of each other. Check this out, guys. The rod bearing. At least it had some sort of a bearing here, so the crankshaft's not actually damaged. All right, guys. So we went ahead and we opened up cylinders 7 and 8 to take a look at the bearings. 8 was the worst one. The other 7 of them were actually fine. None of them were actually rattling or wiggling. Everything was completely normal. But we went ahead and we checked 7 since it was right next to 8. As you guys can see on the floor, I'm in a bit of a pickle right now. I'm kind of bleeding a lot. But this is the bearing that we have pulled from cylinder 8. This was all that was left. Super thinned out. As you can see, all that metal was just falling into the oil. And then this was cylinder 7 right here. Basically looks like a brand new bearing right here, guys. It's the same thickness, same everything. It's actually a little bit scored, I'm seeing, so it is going to need replacement. So we are going to go ahead and replace it. And we're probably gonna have to check the other ones as well. But yeah, as you guys can see that difference though, I've never seen anything like this before. It's pretty crazy. But we're gonna go ahead and get these things replaced. Everything else looks really good. So let's see what happens. All right, guys, so let me explain this a little bit further on how something like this was caused in our particular scenario. So this is cylinder 7 rod bearings. This is cylinder 8. This is all that's left, is just the bottom half of it, or the top half, whichever half this was. It's all thinned out, not much left of this. So basically what happened is these things, they sit in the car side by side, just like this, inside the engine at different angles. So what happened was when this one got all shredded and destroyed and the pieces of it came off, this actually also slid under a little bit because it got so thinned out that it was able to slide around. And then the other thing was the shavings for it went under cylinder 7 and got into its bearings. As you can see, this is all scored and ruined, and then this part right here is all smooth and perfect. So basically the scraps that came from this side came under here and ruined this area. So we have these bearings. We're going to go ahead and replace them. Obviously the bearings is what took the damage. The other side is completely fine, and this part is completely fine as well. So we're just going to replace the bearings on 7 and 8, and then everything should be all well with that. All right, guys, so right here we have our bearings, and this is the other top half of the bearing from cylinder 8. Turns out it just fell over there on the floor. I didn't see it when it came out, so there it is right there. It's pretty much disintegrated as if it wasn't even there. Yeah, it's really tight under the car, so I didn't even see this when it fell, and it doesn't even weigh that much. It probably didn't make any noise when it fell, but here it is. But now what we're gonna go ahead and do is, these bearings definitely helped and saved the crankshaft and the connecting rods a lot. It's all torqued. That was fun. Check that out, guys. No more wiggle.
Take a look at that, guys. All beautifully put together. No more wiggle at all. Looks amazing.
Alright guys, so it is a couple hours later now, and just like that, every single bolt and screw that was taken out is put back in. We got the oil pan in, the gasket, the steering rack, got the steering shaft, everything plugged back in. All we gotta do now is go ahead, fill this thing up with 7 quarts of oil and start this thing, and hopefully that was the only sound that there was. All right, guys, so now we basically got everything onto the car and it's ready to go. So everything's tightened up. We got the steering rack back in, the steering column shaft. We got the new bearings in there, the pan, the gasket, and we just filled it with oil, and we picked up a new filter as well. So all scraps of metal, everything should now be cleared out of this car's system, guys. And this car is finally gonna get a good first startup, and it should sound smooth. So let's go ahead and see how this thing sounds.
All right, guys. If you guys remember in the last clips, last time we replaced this big boy right here. So the knocking sound was there last time after we did all that. So this should be our issue.
It's gone!
Let's go! Dude, it sounds so smooth!
No leaks at all. Let me find a flashlight.
Dude, it sounds smooth! Alright guys, we got the car moved outside and it sounds so good, guys. Take a look at this thing, guys. This thing looks mean. I'm so excited to take this thing for a test drive, guys. This thing's gonna sound insane after so long. It sounds really good. Dude. No, 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 no. No! No!